Hi Eastmont 7th graders. Today we are going to learn about base 2. We're going to apply our knowledge from base 10 and base 5 and see what kind of patterns we can develop. So let's look at our first question. In base 10, we can count to 9 before needing a new place value. In base 5, we can count to 4 before needing a new place value. How far can we get before we need to use 2 place values in base 2? So I want you to kind of look at the pattern with base 10 and base 5. I want you to think about it. And the answer is 1. Good job, because notice that 10 take away 1 is going to be 9, 5 take away 1 is going to be 4, and base 2 take away 1 is going to be 1. Let's postpone this last question. What are the place values in base 2? We're going to use the diagram from the very first video that we watched to figure that out. But let's kind of learn in blue, we're going to read the blue lettering, why this is important and why in the world are we even paying attention to this today. It states, today we're going to think like a computer. Remember, computers run on electrical power. This means that they can be on or off. Computers work with a number system called base 2 or binary. Place values can be thought of as either on or off. The 0 represents off and the 1 represents on. All right, let's go back to this last question. What are the place values in base 2? We're going to see if you can find the pattern. Here's a diagram between all the base 10 symbols and all the base 2 symbols. So I want to see if you can come up with a pattern. What do you notice between the symbols that we know and the symbols that are binary? I want you to pause the video and come up with some patterns. Hopefully you caught on to my hint. On the left-hand side, I did some of the numbers in blue. Let's go to the next slide to analyze why those numbers and none of the other ones are blue. When we were analyzing base 10, we noticed that when we went from one place value to the next, we had to multiply by 10. And that made sense because we were in base 10. Same thing when we want to go from the tens to the hundreds place, the hundreds to the thousands, and so forth. So every time we're moving left, we multiply by 10. So let's look at the pattern for base 2. So for base 2, I wonder what number we're going to need to multiply by. What was that number again? 2, that's right. So I'm starting in my ones place, just like I did on the tens value, but instead of multiplying by 10, I'm going to multiply by 2. You've got it. So that's my next place value. And if I move over one more place value, I need to multiply by 2 yet again, so I'm going to get 4. I want you to pause the video and I want you to tell me the next 3 place values that are going to be after 4. Please pause that video. All right, let's see if you got them right. So I have 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1. So we can see that in base 10 and base 2, you still have place values. But instead of moving up by 10, we're moving up by 2. So here we have our ones, and we're moving on forward. But on the bottom, we're multiplying by 2, and on the top, we're multiplying by 10. This is why the first video is so important, even though we have all that memorized. Now let's learn how to convert base 10 numbers into base 2 numbers. And one way to do that is to use kind of like a table. Notice our place values are still the same. Here we have 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and we got those numbers by multiplying by 2, just like we did on the last page. All right, so let's go ahead and convert the base 10 of 21 into base 2 numbers. All right, so step number 1, it says write all the place values of base 2 that are less than 21. And that makes sense because this is 21, so this has to be less than 21. Create a table with these place values on the bottom row. Okay, looks like we've done that. Looks like we're doing good so far. Step 2 says divide 21 by the first place value, 16. Write the whole number quotient above 16. There is a remainder of 5. Well, let's talk about specifically how we got that 5. Well, if I want to go 16 divided by 21, I know that 16 can go in there one time. So I get a remainder of 5, a remainder of 5. All right, let's zoom back out. We remember that there's a 5 left over, and that 5 needs to now go into the 8. Well, 5 is not divisible by 8. In fact, we would get a decimal, and we don't need a decimal. We need a whole number. So we're going to put a 0 in this place. That's what step number 3 says. 5 is not divisible by the next place value, 8. Write 0 above 8. All right, so there's no way we can have 5 go into 8 without creating a decimal. That's not what we want, no decimals. All right, step number 4, it says continue dividing and finding remainders until the table is complete. Well, we do know that the next place value is 4. Let's zoom back in and see what kind of division we can do. All right, let's go ahead and divide. If we are dividing, we know that 4 can go into 5 one time, and the remainder of 1 is left over. Let's zoom back out and put that in our table. So zoom back out, put it in our table. We know that this 4 place value, there's 1 remainder. Now we're going to put it in our 2, because our next place value is 2. All right, we run into the same problem that we did with 8. When we had a remainder of 5, we know that if we went 5 divided by 8, we get a decimal, and that's no good. Same thing when we are in the 2's place value. 1 divided by 2 is a decimal. It's 0.5, and that's not what we're looking for. So immediately we know that the 2 is going to be a 0. All right, so here we go. Our last one, last division. Here we go. So if we go 1 divided by 1, we know it goes in there one time, and there's nothing left over. We have a remainder of 0, so we know we are done. So let's zoom back out and put that in our table. This is our last one. So right here where we have our 1's place value, we're going to put a 1 because 1 it went into 1 one time, and we know we're done because our remainder is 0. All right, guys, this is a little snapshot of all the problems that you're going to see on Friday. Feel free to take on the challenge and do a couple by yourself at home, or you can wait until Friday. We're going to do them with a shoulder partner. All right, so the next step we need to do is learn how to go from base 2 into base 10. Here we have the number 101, and we need to see what it means in base 10. We're going to use a table again. This is going to help us organize our math and make sure we are following the procedure. Step number 1 states 101 in base 2 is a 3-digit number. Write the table with 3 columns and 3 rows. So since this is 3 numbers, we're going to make sure our spots have 3. Step number 2 says, write each digit of 101 in base 2 on the top row of the table. All right, so it looks like we're just taking our digits over here and we're writing them on the top. Easy enough. Step number 3 says, write each place value of 101 in base 2 on the bottom row of the table. So we know that this is the 1's place, this is the 2's place, and this is the 4's place in base 2. Now we're going to need to do some math. Step number 4 states, multiply each column, write the product below the table. All right, so let's zoom in and talk about what's really going on here. Okay, so we are going to take our digit in our base 2 number and we're going to multiply it by its place value. So 1 times 1 is going to equal a value of 1. All right, let's go to the second place value. So we know our number is 101, so we're going to take that 0, and since this is in the second place value, we're going to multiply 0 and 2 together, and anything times 0 is 0. Then we're going to go to our 4th place value. We know a 1 is in that place value, so 1 times 4 is 4. All right, let's zoom out and let's see what our last step is. Step number 5 says, add the products together. The sum is your number in base 10. All right, so let's go ahead and see. We had our 4, our 0, and our 1. Let's zoom in. And we have a a sum of 5. So this number of 101 really means 5 in base 10. When you get to class on Friday, these are the exact same problems we're going to do with a partner in class. So here we have our base 2, and you're going to be expected to convert them into base 10. Of course, I'll be walking around helping everyone, but this is what we're going to do on Friday. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video.